My name is Janice B. Gordon, and this is Scale Your Sales Podcast. Welcome to Scale Your Sales Podcast, listed number 9 of 43 best podcasts for every sales professional. I am Janice B. Gordon, the customer growth expert, awarded RevTech strategist of 2024. Now, in this episode of Scale Your Sales Podcast, my guest talks about really if you're being promoted into a new role, you're taking on a new team, really, what is your strategy? What is your strategy about establishing yourself in a new role? And it's about being kind of quietly competent, actively listening. And so for many people that are listening into this, there's a lot to be learned from this VP of sales. Also, you're going to love his heroes and sheroes and why they are his heroes and sheroes. But the conversation took a really interesting turn. We talked a lot about recruitment. We talked a lot about managing your team and the strategies that you use. So you're going to love this conversation. My next guest is husband, father, terrible golfer, Associate VP of Sales at Fortra EMEA. A 25-year sales professional that operated globally and a DEI champion. Welcome to Scale Your Sales Podcast, Jamie Gallagher.
Thanks. Hi.
Hi. We met at the event Sisters in Sales, and this was a fantastic event that you sponsored. Now, tell me why you wanted to get involved with this organisation, because it's their launch event in the UK, wasn't it?
Yes. I met a very, it always starts with people, I think. So I met a very powerful individual at a networking event, a lady called Hannah, who's their sales director. And we were the only 2 Black people in the room. And she was one of 6 or 7 women, I want to say, in a room of men. So I'll be honest, I looked over and instantly I was like, someone who looks a bit like me. What are they doing here? So I wanted to go and have a conversation. I went over, gravitated to her. She's very charismatic. She's a content creator around sales as well, like self. Mm-hmm. And I really was interested in what she had to say, what she was talking about, and sort of opportunities for people of colour, to get into sales, particularly women. And I was really interested in it, and I wanted to know more. And I wanted to see if I could help. Mm-hmm. And there was an opportunity to help, and so I took it.
Yeah. So how has this, the makeup of your team, how do you go about making sure that you have a diverse team? What are the things that you look for? Do you find it hard? Because I speak to so many sales leaders that talk about wanting it, and when you look at the team, you don't see it reflected in the team. And then when you do question, they say, well, we advertise, it's hard, we don't see them, recruiters don't send them. So I'm always interested in people that do have a diverse team, how they did it.
I think you've got to mean it, right? So there's one thing saying it, there's another, it's stated values versus actual values, I guess. I'm lucky because I have team members that are from, United Kingdom to Paris to Barcelona to Dubai. So there's a certain level of diversity that just naturally occurs because I've got multicultural team, full stop. But in order to sort of try and focus in, say, on the UK specifically, you've got to partner with your recruitment team, and you've got to say, I want to see women. I'd like to see people from different backgrounds. Could you go and source me CVs from places like Sisters in Sales, the communities on LinkedIn that are to enable women and enable Black people, enable Asian people to enter into technology. They do exist. It's it's kind of lazy just to sit there, you know, sticking a job advert on Indeed or LinkedIn and go, where's all the black people, right? It's like, you know, go and look for them. And also use your own network, speak to people, you know, and there are people that I like and follow because they've got interesting, you know, like yourself. If you post something, I look who's liked what you've posted, Janice, and so on and so forth. And there's other great organizations, you know, there's like Lollipop Mentoring, the Sisters in Sales, stalk people. You know, I had an old leader that said 20% of your role should be looking for the next people that are coming into your organization. So, you know, reach out to people. That's the key thing. It's not going to happen to you. You have to make it happen.
Yeah, certainly. You know, I've interviewed a few recruiters on this podcast, and you know, I did kind of pick up one that has on their website, you know, that we select from Russell Group universities, and that, you know, they were talking about being diverse. Well, and when I questioned, they said, well, that's what our customers want, and that's what we give them. We are a business. And it's like, well, when is this going to change? You know, you have to educate them as well. You know, that is your role and your job. And one of the processes that I use to ensure that we have a wider catchment, because really recruiters often just are dipping from the same source constantly. It's going round, and we know that sales is a difficult role to fulfill successfully. So to make it easy, I use a process that benchmarks the other 2.6 million assessments that have been done on salespeople across different roles, industries, you know, the whole world. So we know what great looks like in your industry for all the roles that you're trying to fill. So if we've got this benchmark that's been predictive because it's verified, tried and tested, then actually you can almost put the source it from anywhere without using a recruiter or AI that will filter, and the filter being very biased. Actually, all you're doing is you're benchmarking on what is the greatest potential, what is the on-job potential for this person to succeed in your company, in your culture, in your role, and it will tell you. And you only interview the ones that are recommended. You don't interview anyone else, and it's completely blind from a diverse point of view. It's literally just looking at the way the person answered this assessment. The problem is that CVs, the predictive effectiveness of CVs, interviews is only about 20%. So, and it's an expensive mistake that every sales leader has made when you recruit someone and they're not working out, and it's really expensive and hard to work themselves out. So what methods do you, besides asking recruiters, when you're actually interviewing, what are you looking for?
So for me personally, I'm looking for somebody that I think I can get on with, right? It used to, in our old head office, and I think it may even say it in the new head office, we used to have a plaque on the wall that says we don't hire jerks, right? If you find the person a little bit obstropolous, awkward, you don't see eye to eye in the interview process, chances are it's not going to get better, right? Once you've hired them. So I think that's got to be the baseline that you go for. Can I get on with this person? And then everything sort of feeds from there. Then you're looking for your specific competencies. Are they trainable? Are they, you know, some people, success comes in so many different shapes and flavors. You know, they used to say, and I mean, sort of people that influenced me when I was young, oh, sales, it's the gift of the gab. And I think that's long since been proven incorrect, right? It's not the gift of the gab. You've got to have something that backs it up. You've got to have a product that people need. You've got to be selling it to the right person in terms of an ICP, and you've got to have a process that you follow. And sales has changed so much, even in the last few years, around longer sales cycles, more people having a say in the decision, once you've got to yes, that's not even the job done, then you go into the secondary sales cycle, you meet a whole different slew of people from legal and procurement, and how you actually get from a yes to an order is a different element now than it ever was. So I think that's the sort of thing that I look for, is are they likable, are they trainable, are they coachable, and do you believe in them? Do you believe that this person would be committed to your cause and can present themselves in a way that you'd like your organization presented? And also, in a strange way, don't have your expectation falsely high, right? Every hire is not perfection. Every hire is a project that you're going to need to work side by side with, or the manager's going to need to work side by side with, to get it to where they need to be. There are no tomorrow solutions when you hire. It's always working towards getting a better outcome. Does that make sense?
Absolutely, and I agree with so much of what you say. Coachability is really important. It's not one of those. Coachability isn't something that you will learn over a period of time. But actually, in this database of we're able to test for it. There's so much skills that are essential to sales that are not. You can't interview for them. It's like, what are all those hidden beliefs that are holding that person back? Doesn't necessarily come out in the interview, but are so critical to success, which is why this process that I use. And also coachability, it can test for coachability. And if you've got someone in role that isn't coachable, doesn't matter how good their potential, it's not going to happen. So it's like one of those critical things you need to know before you recruit, but actually the traditional recruitment process won't tell you. But also, we often find that managers are not good coaches, but they're not coachable themselves as well. So, it's like, these are all the kind of hidden secrets of what creates success. So, and onboarding as well. Recruitment, as you were kind of implying, is just the starting process. After you've recruited them, your manager needs to work with them. What is the onboarding? And that's the secret to success as well. So one of the process that I use, your assessment turns into the coaching document. So you actually know their strengths, what are the kind of hidden beliefs that's holding them back. And these are the things that you coach for, so that, in your onboarding, you're really setting up that individual for success, because you've got all of those hidden things you now know about them, that that you can help them.
Absolutely. Recruitment's dangerous, Janice, because particularly in my world, because you're recruiting salespeople. So the chances are, if they're half good, and you're going to be with this person in your interview process for anywhere between 2 to 4 hours over a series of meetings, most salespeople will be able to sell you that they're good during that period. So you're going to have to have some questions. You're going to have some, proof points that are going to help you figure some stuff out. So I'll give you an example of what I mean by that. I tend to enter interview process at the back end now, because I've got managers that manage teams. So I end up being a second or a third stage interviewer. And sometimes the candidates are a bit fatigued by that stage, right? But one of the things that always I find, and it happened this week, I say to someone, okay, do you have any questions for me? And the worst answer I can receive to that is, no, I spoke to Billy and he answered all my questions, so I'm fine, thank you. And at that point, I'm like, oh, okay, really? It feels like you're tapping out just when you should be leaning in if you do that.
Yeah. And I wrote an article this week about this, and I spoke to a sales leader, and it's like 6-7 levels of their sales process, of, you know, how many stages of recruitment. And it's like, when you think about it, the reason why we have so many levels is because the risk is so high and the tools we use are so crude.
Yes, yeah, absolutely.
So we're adding more complexity into that process because it isn't a great process.
No, completely.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, think about software sales. Hiring someone in terms of opportunity cost, it's a $1 million experiment, right? So I'm going to give you a target I'm trusting you with a target to achieve of $1 million or so, give or take, some lower, some higher. And while I trust you to deliver this $1 million, I'm also going to pay you anywhere between 50 to 120, 150,000 pounds just for turning up. And then any of that million you get, I'm going to pay you a percentage of, and then I'm also going to do tax and national insurance, and I'm going to expose you that you could be negative or neutral or positive to the rest. The risk is monumental. And then people take it so lightly as well. There are some processes, as you point out, that we have got wrong, but there is no hard and fast. You know, you can do all the psychometric testing. You know, you could get referrals from people, testimonials, and it can still go wrong. You know, they might have been super successful selling the previous thing. They come to sell your product and it just misfires and they don't get the wheels off the ground.
Yeah. There is another way. But, you know, we can talk about that. So, you know, so it's really interesting, because I didn't think we'd be talking about recruitment. And it's like really interesting conversation, because so many CEOs, sales leaders have the same problem. And there is a guaranteed process. But I want to talk more about Fortra and really your journey as to why. Now, how do you embed yourself and establish yourself in a role? Now, I know that you've been there for 7 years. You've had various, you know, roles within the organization. And, you know, when you're kind of going into a new team, what would you say is the best way to establish yourself as a leader, VP, and so forth?
It's a good question. Do something valuable is the short answer. And do something valuable and don't make it worse. It's really easy to make things worse, right? You know, you can ride in. New managers often make the mistake of assuming they have the monopoly on correct. You know, it's like Stephen Covey, right? At first, what seems obvious is not always correct. So don't rush in thinking you know how to do something better. You know, keep your powder a little bit dry, observe. The first 100 days in role is critical, because you're not furniture at that point, and you see the organization differently. You question in ways that people who've been there a while don't question. So I think I was very bought in at Fortra, which was Help Systems. We changed our name about 2 years ago now, and it was I came here because of the leader, a guy called Jim Cassens, who's now the CEO at Perforce. You know, he's a really fantastic leader, and it was his belief and his willingness to give me the latitude to operate, to put things in place, to change things, that really, you know, got me hooked. And then the culture was all pervasive through the organization. You know, everybody I met genuinely wanted to help, genuinely wanted to make the little bit of the Help Systems world that I was responsible for better. And it's just, when you're in an environment that really is supportive in that manner, it's quite intoxicating, Janice, and it does draw you in, and it makes you want to do more. And also, I think you've got, I was having this conversation recently with a colleague. You need to do a thing, and I don't know what that thing is, because it's different for everybody, but you need to deliver something to hang your hat on. So you need to be known as, oh, you're the guy that closed the Royal Mail or Rolls Royce or whatever is the first $1 million deal. Oh, you're the guy who brought that team through target for the first time. And I think, you know, I joined at a time when, you know, the team had been, you know, struggling, so it's a bit of a turnaround job, and we managed to get the team through the number. So that was the first thing that I got to hang my hat on. And then you've got to keep renewing your thing, because people then know you're good, but they can't quite sure why you're good, but they just know you're good. And the more value-based things that you achieve, the more your credibility grows. And you know, and then you just get opportunities to help fix problems. And if you can be part of, you know, the team that fixes the problems, then your value goes through the roof. My current boss, Paolo Capello, is a great guy. His mantra is, I want to fix it. So bring your problems to me, I'll help you fix them. So we acknowledge and applaud the good stuff that's going on. That's granted, you can't move past that. But it's like, what are the problems? How do we clear them out of the way? How do we enable you to do more of the stuff that's making you successful? So that's what I kind of say. And then, you know, don't be shy regarding opportunities as they're presented. One of the things that really irritates me is imposter syndrome. People that have imposter syndrome, and I think it particularly holds Black people back from conversations I've had in industry. A lot of Black people don't feel like they're allowed, they should be in the room. They feel nobody's in the room that looks like me. They feel intimidated. And it's a real unnecessary feeling. And I think it's one that you don't work out very quickly. And I had a Damasian moment, I think. It was about 2005. And I was doing some public speaking on cybersecurity. And I was about to talk to an auditorium of about 3,000 people, mixture of children and industry heads. It was a conference that had been put on, and it was on the back of Sarah's law, Megan's law, and all this sort of stuff, and how the cyber industry could lean in. And as I walked to the lectern, and I was really nervous, I was shook. As I looked out, the auditorium was chaos. Kids were running all over the place, people looking in wonder, and it just clicked. I was like, no one's bothered. Not in a bad way, because a lot of people were bothered, but I was like, I am so tense and tight in this moment. And I was like, half the room aren't bothered. They're thinking, what time's the next break? What am I having for my dinner? Should I have gone to the toilet? They're thinking all these thoughts, not thinking, oh, that guy shouldn't be up there. And that's what I sort of say to people when people describe that they're feeling overawed or they've got anxiety about their role. I'm like, you've got just as much right to be there. The person you're going to meet or talk to in this sales environment, they're a husband, a father, a mother, a sister. They are kind of interested in what you've got to say. They're not thinking you're going to make a mistake. So I think that's one of the key things as well, just to be a little bit calmer and don't worry so much about, do you have the right to be there? You're there. You do have the right to be there.
I think that, I mean, there's two things I'd like to unpick, and I've got a thing about imposter syndrome, because it can be a bit of a crutch that we use, and I'm not saying it doesn't exist. I'm not saying people don't feel it. It's a real thing. But my view is that, you know, it's like if you've never ridden a bike, you're going to feel imposter syndrome about, you know, doing something you've never done. You're supposed to feel scared, nervous, yes. You know, that's kind of like healthy. I've never done it before. You're supposed to have fear. And that is the learning curve. That's the learning journey. And, you know, obviously that, you know, it's a real thing. But if we understand it's part of the natural process for us to grow and move to the next step, then it's really a case of just embracing it. It's natural. Everyone feels that. It doesn't matter if you're CEO or, you know, the cleaner, whatever role you have in life. When you're doing something that's new, you're meant to have those nerves, the fear and all of that. And you just need to lean into it if you want to grow. If you want to grow,
Absolutely.
if you want to stay where you are, then let that hold you back.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
your choice.
completely.
Yeah, yeah. But the other thing I thought, and I think there's a lot of sales leaders that listen to this podcast, and I think they can really learn from you in terms of when you're promoted into another role, you've got a new team. And the things that you said in terms of listen, ask questions, and actively listen and hold back. Don't jump in and fix things, because you were talking about fixing things later, but you're saying hold back on that. And then I thought it was really strategic of you talking about picking the one thing, what is the thing that you're going to hold your hang your hat on, choose, because there's so many. When you go into an organization, a team, there are 1,000 things that need fixing. There's so many things, and what we tend to do is tweak at all of these things, and you don't really achieve anything. So it's about finding what is the quick win. And even when we're in a sales environment as well, in order to get the bigger deal, you might need to pilot something. What is the quick win that you can do to establish trust with that customer? So it's, we're doing it in our sales, or when we're even joining a team. What is the thing that I can be known for? What is the thing that I can do? What is the real difference I can make? But what I thought was great that you were saying is that, okay, once you've done that, then find the next one and find the next one.
Yeah.
Rather than doing them all.
Just sitting on your laurels.
Yeah, absolutely love it. And I think that's a really excellent strategic approach to, to building your credibility in any environment. So I love that. Thank you.
Good.
So, yeah, I'd like to ask you about what you, in your team, when you have someone in your team that isn't performing against their targets, what is the process that you would go through?
I think life's a layer cake. So if someone's not delivering, there's rarely one reason for it. So I manage managers now, so it's a little bit different. So if I answer it in terms of managing managers, and then answer it as though I was a manager managing salespeople. So we are, we're quite well developed in terms of methodology and in terms of tools and in terms of the things that we expect. So, first and foremost, if you haven't got a plan, you're going to be in trouble, right? So, do they have a plan? Are they aware they're missing the objectives? Most people usually are. Some people are quite surprised when you suggest to them that they're missing. So you can't kind of. Is there anything going on externally that's impacting them, right? So you've got to pay attention to that, because people die, people get cancer, people have babies, people's kids leave home and go to university. There's all this stuff around them that can have an impact, and you've got to be supportive, but you've got to be supportive of your business as well. So if you do support people through difficult times, you tend to get a really integrated and loyal employee on the other side. So what I mean by that is, don't knee-jerk and just go overly heavy on someone just because you're not meeting your near-term goals. The other thing that you need to consider is, are the requests and goals realistic, first and foremost? Because things change. We set our targets, and then things happen in the wider world that really derails that. And I'll give you a very obvious example. COVID, COVID took us out at the knees for 6 weeks. Everybody kind of went, freeze. And we just didn't know, was it going to come back? We were looking at each other for 6 weeks, really concerned at the level of sales. And then 6 weeks later, it just went straight back to normal. Oh my God, thank you. It was a real shock. But then it's critical, right? So back to the point, you get your plans in place, make sure the plans are realistic, smart goals, it doesn't change. Whenever I see a plan that hasn't got smart goals, I just go, it's a wish list. It's a wish list. Turn it into something realistic and inspectable that I can help you with. And then also use it as a dashboard. If you said you're going to contact 10 customers this particular ICP within 3 weeks, 3 a week, and then 4 in the final week or 4 in the first week. If you're off track, know you're off track. What are you doing about being off track? And then it boils down to the simple things. We used to call it, in my very first job, we used to call it hours, demos, and attitude, which now translates into do the work, right? So set the KPIs, be specific with your time, modularize your time. Demos is meetings, and as it said, suggest demonstrations. Set yourself targets for showing people your product or service, and understand, the right level of conversation with the right decision maker. And then, the thing that you really can control is your attitude, right? So how you feel about it, because you can go for days and not hear a yes. So, you can be, but also look at your process and then figure out what the response to the KPIs you set is telling you. If you're going for days and not hearing a yes, you might need to look at how you're presenting your product or service, in terms of you're obviously not got any hook that is relevant to the people you're talking to. So you might need to go into your discovery in a different way and unearth the problems that match to your product or service, right? So that's what I'd say. And this has to flow down through the managers. And the key is setting reasonable goals with the team and inspecting. And then if they're not meeting the objectives, figuring out what you do differently for people to meet the objectives.
Right. How important is coaching in your role and the role of your managers, and how often?
Yeah, I mean, it's critical. It's critical because I think coaching often, a bit that people often miss out with coaching is expectation setting. So we don't always tell people what good looks like. We just kind of go, why are you doing this? And they're like, what? So I think, if you can be really specific about what good looks like and how you set it up. And then also, I'm lucky, I've done every role in my organization at some point in my career. So you've also got to be willing to show people what you mean. I see managers that, don't get in the trenches, don't, roll their sleeves up and get engaged. I think it's critical that we're out in the field with our team members, showing, doing, and then getting them to do it, and then also explaining to them where they could improve, getting them to think about how they could improve themselves. The methodology that we use here at Fortra is force management. I don't know whether you've come across it, command of the message. Mm-hmm. And it's a great tool, because it really focuses in on positive business outcomes, understanding, what it means for your customer, what their problems are, really digging into it, and, making sure that it gives you, if you follow the mantra correctly, it really gives you the opportunity to ensure that we're connecting the benefits of our products and services back to customer problems and really carrying it through and really following through. So I think it's critical. Sales organizations that don't have methodologies of some description, command of the message isn't the only methodology by any stretch of the imagination. I think they are few and far between now. I don't know how you feel about that, Janice. You probably talk to more sales leaders than I do.
So what methodology? What, as in not following?
As in, do you come across many sales leaders that say they're not using a sales methodology anymore?
I actually do.
Really?
Yeah, because what happens is that as you recruit, many of your salespeople come in with different methodologies that they've used in previous roles. And so what happens, and then a sales leader has another sales methodology that wants to, and the one he likes and understands, that wants to implement in the team. And what you often find when I go into organizations, there's a hybrid. There's a hybrid of different methodologies that are being used. And I think that that is more typical than untypical of organizations. But the thing is, it's actually what is causing the problem. Today, methodology is important, but I don't think it's as critical. You've got to have some kind of a process that you're following. That is critical. But which one, is one better than the other? Who knows, right?
I think lots of them are very similar.
They're very, very similar, very similar. But nowadays, it's about deal management. It's about, that is the greater element that leads to success. How is your team managing that deal through the customer's environment? How many connections do you have? How often do you follow up on those connections? So how are you working the problem through the customer's organization? How are you making sure that deal is, and you mentioned this at the beginning, it's all very well getting a yes, but actually getting the deal, there's a big gap between yes and actually landing the deal. So it's managing that deal. And so I often find there's a mix of methodologies within organization, but it doesn't mean you're not going to get the deal with that. If you're not managing that deal, then you're not going to get the deal through to fruition.
Makes sense. I'd be interested whether there's variation by size of organization. So we are around about 350 salespeople, just shy of $1 billion turnover. So we're operating at a scale where having the same language spoken by all the salespeople is critical for us to orientate where we are in our business.
Yeah. I wonder under the lid whether people are doing things a little bit different, but it goes unnoticed because they're still hitting targets.
We are maniacal in our approach around the methodology currently.
Then that's your culture, isn't it? So that's why that happens. A lot of other organizations of the similar size do not have that same cultural DNA.
No, I can see that.
Yeah, it's interesting. Okay. I'd like to find out more about your heroes and sheroes. Now, I know that you've got quite a few, and I found it quite interesting, the diversity of them.
Yeah, so it's interesting. I mean, I know some people are like, oh, this person is my out and out hero, but I think there's inspiration to be taken from lots of people. And I think there are lots of people that do really amazing things, and sometimes you look at people and go, wow, they're so successful. How on earth did they manage that? So I'm gonna start off with one of the left field ones that I put down, right? The Kardashians, right? The Kardashians. And simply because they're like worth $4 billion, and they spun it out of nothing. I'm like, how on earth did they do that? They did it by seeing a gap, understanding where popular culture was, creating a niche and stepping into it. In fact, it's intensely technical what they delivered for themselves and their own enrichment. It's mind-blowing. It really is. Utterly amazing. But, there's some obvious ones. There's like, Michael Jordan and Michael Jordan's family. And I say Michael Jordan's family specifically because I'm talking about his mum, right? So undoubtedly, he became one of the most amazing athletes ever, arguably the best athlete ever, right? But his mum, helped architect a deal for him that was that broke the structure of how sports deals were done at the time, and has made him one of the richest sportsmen ever, that he's still getting paid on anything that carries his own image and name. It's absolutely phenomenal. So, and I love to hear the stories of how, if you watch the Netflix Last Dance series about the Chicago Bulls, he talks about how he motivates and how he needs to create a bad guy for himself to force his energy against, which is an astonishing way of self-motivation. But, hands down, in my opinion, one of the most successful people ever. And then, there's I'll give you one more. Huey P. Newton, right? He started off small, right? Yeah, he's a global icon now, but he never thought, oh God, I want to be a global icon for black rice. He thought, I just want to make sure the kids get fed, right? So I remember when I was at university, which is a bit of a rose-tinted, misty memory, to be fair. I remember we were doing a sustainability module on our business degree, and it was act local, think global. And I think he wasn't even thinking global. He was just acting local. And what he did was so successful and so amazing. It just empowered people around him to become a bigger and bigger. And when you're right, people lean in and want to be part of what you're doing. And that's what I think was going on there. And then probably the last one that I'd talk about is a guy called Rex Smith. Rex Smith was a sales trainer, and he passed away this year. Rex Smith was a very good friend of mine, and he was an amazing man, and he helped me and so many of my cohort become the sales leaders that we are with what he put into us. And he leaned in and was interested long after there was any benefit to him. And that was probably what I'll always remember about Rex, is that when you're interested in somebody and want to support them when there's no benefit to you, that's a real hero to me. And if anybody wants to go and look up anything about Rex, if you Google the Otagon flanker, you'll find some stuff on Rex on the internet, which was amazing. He was a Kiwi guy, and he played against the British Lions when they toured New Zealand back in 1971, 73 time. So he led a very interesting life, did Rex.
Fantastic. Yeah, it's certainly left field or a few of them. But, I really love the way that you talked about why they are your hero and sharer, and there's lots to be learned there. This has been fantastic. Absolutely really enjoyed our conversation, Jamie. So thank you so much for being a guest on Scale Your Sales podcast, Jamie Gallagher.
Thank you, Janice. Take care.
Thank you. Thank you for listening to this week's episode of Scale Your Sales podcast. If you like this discussion, feel free to listen to other episodes or watch the captioned show on YouTube and subscribe to future episodes. I would really appreciate it if you would leave a positive review on iTunes. Thank you.